Well, thank you for coming back to join us. She joined us for Mastermind. Mastermind, did we have a great conversation between Kim Lewis and Arlan?
Yeah, thank y'all.
Awesome. So I had a few questions I wanted to ask, and we will be taking Q&A with y'all, so y'all will have the opportunity to ask a black venture capitalist and catalyst. I want to talk about that too. Your questions about funding. But first, I kind of wanted to go, how would you explain what you do to someone that doesn't know what venture capital is at all?
So my main job, I'm at Backstage Capital, which I launched a few years ago, is to raise and deploy money from high net worth individuals and institutions into high potential, mostly tech companies, some CPG, and in the hopes that I can, through multiple ways, bring them back as limited partners, 3x, 5x, 10x their initial investment. And so I go around and I raise money just like a lot of founders do. VCs, venture capitalists, raise from other people. And so they have people to answer to. And most VCs invest their own money into that fund as well in order to have skin in the game.
I love it. Everybody got that? All right, y'all with us. Okay, that's important. All right, so I wanted to ask a few questions about your backstory, because you have an amazing backstory.
Thank you.
Growing up in the Dallas area, correct?
That's right.
Any Dallas in the
Dallas,
house?
anybody?
Okay.
Yeah.
Go a little bit broader. Texas in the house? Okay. I don't know if you hear, Texas is our number 2 state that represents.
To Georgia. Second
Georgia.
to Georgia. Wow, I love that.
Every year, last few years, they weren't originally, but when they got a hold of that number 2, they were like, we ain't getting it.
Yeah, I love it. Come back next time.
Yep, so shout out to that. But in reading your story, as you talk about it, right, in your current book, Your First Million, y'all make sure you get it. We get a mastermind copy of it. If you don't have it, make sure you go get it and grab it now. Your First Million is out.
Who has Your First Million? Yeah, that's great.
And a lot of our members saw it in the airports coming in. So guess what? You don't even have to wait till you get home. A lot of you can scoop up a copy right in the airport on your way back, read it on your flight. Y'all agree to do that?
Yes, and you can get it on Audible or any other audio platform for that flight home. I do read it, so you have to like my voice, but in order to enjoy it. But it's good. By the time you land, you'll know what's up.
So interesting story, because you weren't 5, 6 years old saying, hey, one day, venture capital is going to be in my future.
Nah. I was shaving off half of my eyebrow at 6 because I didn't know any better. That's what I was doing.
And you were in the music industry.
Yes. And, well, you make it sound very fancy, Lamar. I really appreciate you for that. I worked my way from booking and tour managing garage bands, literal garage band from Norway. And book when we didn't have the Googles and all the things. I had the printouts and the MapQuest and that. I booked 2 summer tours that way. In my first book, It's About Damn Time, I tell you all about that. 2, being a production coordinator for a show at Wembley Stadium and the Eiffel Tower with will.i.am years and years later. That was like the full scope of what I did and everything in between. And the in-between, the most of it was I was CeeLo's production coordinator on the road for years, and I was Tony Braxton's production coordinator, and I worked with Jason Derulo and a few other people.
At what point did you say, hey, you know what, venture capital is something I'm interested in, I want to learn more about?
Yeah, so even though I had that kind of fun job for a few years of my life, I'm 43 now, I worked, it took me 2 decades to get there after seeing Janet Jackson perform. I was in the front row. That's another story I tell, and It's About Damn Time.
That's a good story too, y'all.
Yeah.
Y'all got to get the book.
And Your First Million.
Like that story alone.
Yeah.
I mean, the whole book is good, but that story alone is worth it.
Yeah.
That's a good story.
Thank you. But I saw her at 13 in Dallas, and it changed my life. And I thought many things. One of the things was, oh my God, a black woman did this. That's amazing. I can be anything. But the other thing I thought was, I love this atmosphere. I love being in this live music atmosphere. I want to work on the road. I didn't know what that meant, but I want to work on the road. So it took 2 decades to really get there professionally. So I was doing that work, and it was around 33, actually, when I learned a statistic about Silicon Valley that changed my life again. And it was that less than 10% of this venture funding I just described goes to anyone who's not a white man in the U.S., and white men make up approximately 30% of the U.S. So they were getting 3 times, and we were getting the crumbs, and still are, but at least we know it. At least we are talking about it. So instead of starting a company, which is something that I was thinking about doing, I had started so many companies, but starting a new tech company, I thought, what if I started a fund? I tried to raise $1 million for a fund that would invest in women, BIPOC, and LGBTQ+, which I identify as all 3. What would happen if there was someone that almost every black founder in the country knew to call to at least see their company? How would that change things? And I thought it would change the world if we could do that. So I set out to do that. It took 3 years almost until someone gave me the first $50,000 or invested the first $50,000. It took a lot of no's, there was homelessness, there was a lot of that, and I know we'll dig into that a little bit. And then took that first $50,000 and turned it into $30 million, and have invested in more than 200 companies. And one of them I know at least one is here. I know there's probably more, but Curl Mix was one of the first companies we invested in.
And also Naturalicious, I believe, right? A lot of y'all know Gwen Jameer from Naturalicious.
Yes.
And probably a ton of others that you all are aware of. I'm curious, during that time when you said you wanted to do that, was there ever a time when you thought that this is crazy?
Yes, multiple times.
Okay. Because I was about to be so impressed, like, I thought you were going to say no.
No, I'm going to say, it wasn't that this is crazy. I did ask myself, am I crazy? Am I crazy? Because I know how crazy it sounds from the outside to say I was sharing a hotel room at the Comfort Inn in Pearland, Texas, with my mother, who is here. Some of y'all have her glasses. Yes. Thank you. Who was there in her 60s at the time. We didn't know how we were going to pay day to day. Both of us were in a really bad state financially. I didn't have a personal bank account because it had gone negative so often that I got kicked out of it. We would get excited on Tuesdays because they would have free chili or free sandwiches at the hotel in the lobby. And we knew, we're going to have food that day. I was almost going to say real. We don't even know if it was real. I don't know what it was. All that was happening. But I was also talking to people on the phone and meeting people in person who I couldn't meet in person at the time, and talking about $1 million fund. And I had a pitch deck, and I was circulating it, and I was talking to founders, and I was helping them with their problems. And to me, it made all the sense in the world because I could see the future. I could see around corners. I could see what the world was going to look like in the future because I had been there, right? We're creating the future. But every once in a while, at the toughest times, I would stop and say, I need to be intellectually honest with myself. Is this crazy? And I never got to the point where the answer was yes. And it might even have been yes, but. However, we're still going to go because, as many people have said it better than I have, it's crazy until it's genius. It is. And I say, they used to call me crazy, now they just call me. And it's so true. I can't tell you how many different people who are wealthy, who I talked to in the early days, who just weren't understanding what I was talking about for some reason, because they couldn't see the rooms like this that we know exist, even if they didn't exist at the time. Like the people existed, but that the rooms exist. You had to create the room, right? There's so many times. I don't know if it was my Fast Company cover, thank you. I don't know if it was my 2 books. I don't know if it was my Forbes article. I don't know if it was the 200th company invested in, but they would reach out on a DM, slide into my DMs, or text me, hey, how are you? If it was a woman, hey, girl, hey, how you been? And I'm like, yeah, you weren't checking for me back then, but they want to have coffee. Or if it's a guy and it's an investor, this has happened multiple times, can you take a look at my portfolio? When they wouldn't give me the time of day, because tides change and circumstances change. And so if you're being called crazy right now, I do think it's important that you take a stock and have that intellectually honest conversation with yourself, because you owe yourself that. And you may owe your family that, but you mostly owe yourself that. But it probably means you're on to something.
In one of your books, you were telling the story of taking a VC class, I guess, in San Francisco. Was that right? And you were taking a class, and you were talking about the fact that, was it your very first investor you met in that class? It was a woman that invested.
Right, yes. I've met my first investor in that class.
Yeah,
yes.
You know, and that stuff to me, right, it's always we say how important it is to, A, get in the room. It's like it's a few things. I'm telling you, hey, you know, you got to get in the room, because, like, looking from the outside is so much you miss by not just being in the room. Number two, besides just getting in the room, I always say somebody in the room got your money. And it's like your job to find out, you know, who it is. Like, what was that importance of you for just being in the room?
Yeah, so when I talk about that story, I talk about it so quickly that I don't think people quite understand. So again, I'm back in Pearland at the Comfort Inn. We were going to the front desk each morning asking the guy who owns it if we can get a few days to pull some stuff together. We're waiting for the free chili day. I hear about this course in San Francisco, Silicon Valley, now that I understand what that is. And I understand that if I can make a fund like this exist, it might change people's lives for the better. And so I'm on a mission. The course costs $18,000. I don't have $18, and I'm not exaggerating. But as soon as I heard about the course, I said, I'm there. There's no way I'm not going to be in that room, because it was a course of teaching you how to kind of break into Silicon Valley, to understand what investors do, to meet other investors. I'm going to be there. So the first thing I did was I learned that they had a scholarship for women, because they were trying to make sure. It's ironic because the head of it ended up getting in trouble for sexual harassment. That's why I don't talk about it as often. This is an exclusive. I really don't talk about it because Dave McClure is not a great person, in my opinion, when it comes to that. And he was using his clout in the wrong way. However, the other people involved, they had this scholarship. So the first thing I did was, how do I get that scholarship? You have to be referred. It's like a warm referral. I didn't know anybody there. So I made my way, I talked my way through it, got people to refer me, did the thing, right, that I tell other people to do. The second piece was, okay, now it's $9,000. Didn't have $9,000. I did all kinds of stuff. I did crowdfunding. I pitched to people individually. Can you put $500 in if you're a millionaire investor? I did all the things, and I used what I had, which was like ingenuity, the internet, and like future kind of commitments. Then I got myself in the room. I had enough money. I put together enough money for an Airbnb for one of the 2 weeks. So for 1 week, I was fine. I would take a bus to Stanford, get off the bus, go into where all the millionaires were who were staying at the Four Seasons, Palo Alto. They had no idea I was getting on a bus coming over to East Palo Alto, which is a different type of neighborhood, and I was sleeping at an Airbnb that I would soon be kicked out of. So I did all of that, and that's why I feel like when I talk to founders, I've talked to several founders here, when someone stops me and says, well, I haven't done anything with my company because I can't find funding, I'm just like, who are you talking to? Like, you don't understand the links I've gone through to get here. So got myself in the room, and every single day I made sure people knew who I was. I spoke up. I was one of 2 black women in the room. I spoke up as much as I could, and then I made myself valuable to a very specific person in the room who I connected with the most. And because I made myself valuable to her with information that I had that she did not have, she then went on to trust me with the first check. She didn't know me from Adam, but we spent some time together, and she said, I don't know what you're going to do, but I know you're going to do something. So let's see what you can do.
You know, that reminds me of when I first started looking into investing in venture capital and angel investing. The thing I kept coming across was that people invest in people. And that sounds a lot like what, she thought when she...
Yeah. And her name is Susan Kimberlin, white woman, because I'm always talking about white people, so I'm going to talk about it in a positive way as well. Shout out to my wife, another white woman who's wonderful. She too wanted to see what the vision that I was painting, which is, well, the thesis was BIPOC women, LGBTQ plus people, founders have done so much with so little. What would happen if we gave them more? Anybody see my Tamron Hall this earlier? Maybe 2 people? Thank you so much. Thank you. 2 people. Well, check out Tamron Hall. We were just on that on Monday. But I talked about this. What could they do with more? And so Susan saw that too. But Susan knew that she could believe that and she could want that to see that in the world, but she couldn't execute on that like I could. So it's just a testament to making yourself valuable. I call it becoming money, because we know that money attracts money. What if you don't have money? What do? You become money. You become money. Hey, you become money many ways. One main way is with information. Like the information y'all got the last 3 days, nobody can take that from you. The information, some of you, not every single person, now the people who will stand out, the information that you continue to gather and not just let this kind of fall to the wayside, nobody can take that from you. So every day when I was hungry, when I ended up, even after that, was sleeping on the floor of the San Francisco airport, I made a promise to myself that no matter what my circumstances are, no matter what, I cried and it was bad and it was all the things, I'm going to learn something today because I'm going to stack. You can't take, it was like, to me, it was like stacking gold, gold in the vault, or stacks of $10,000 knots. You can't take that from me. So it was, I think Susan, and then later several people invested, but Mark Cuban came in and has invested $6 million of that $30 million into the fund. And he said the same thing. I didn't even have to say it to him. I said, why did you invest the money in the fund when you don't like investing in other people's funds? He said, you'll be in rooms I'll never be in. So you said it on my show, on my podcast. So that everybody here has a value. You are money. You're money right now, and it's just up to you of how valuable do you want to become? What do you want your net worth to be when it comes to the information that you have, the rooms you can get yourself into, and what you're willing to do ethically and sustainably and with kindness, but will go that extra mile? What are you willing to do?
As I think about that, I feel like it's a great reminder, too, that when other communities invest in us, whether they see it or not, who knows how they may see it, it's not charity. We can give them a dynamic return on their investment, right? I think a lot of times people look at it like, oh, I just want to help out. But
listen, and we have some investors, and this is real. Like, there are some investors in Backstage who I believe they're trying to, is it assuage? Is that the word? Calm? Somebody say a sewage.
Don't believe them all and just go with it.
But I appreciate you. I appreciate you. I believe it's assuage. I believe it, but I do appreciate you. Keep speaking loud. Keep speaking loud. Leave.
I can ask ChatGPT.
I believe they're trying to assuage their white guilt. That's all right. I'll help you spend that. Because there's a lot other wrong. There's an Elon Musk, in my opinion, all sorts of just wrong, and I'm not taking that kind of money. To the charity part, speaking of Elon, Mark Cuban right now is in this heated battle with Elon about DEI and all kinds of silliness and shenanigans going on. And of course, I back Mark because he walks the walk. He invested $6 million in my fund. But let me tell you right now, if anybody has any question about this, and I don't know anything about his personal life, I hope he does right by people. But I'll tell you this, Mark isn't over here trying to get warm and fuzzy heart, trying to come over there and hug me and feel good about things. Mark is like, I'm giving you $6 million as an investment. You need to return that. It's business to him, right? I think he is a kind person. But I am not his daughter or his niece or his play cousin. We have reams of emails of him talking about returns and this, and that. He has a full team, legal team that talks to my legal team and this and that. So when I see people like Elon or other people, the trolls in the comments talking about, well, you do this, and this, and you're bleeding heart, and you're too woke. And I'm like, where? Where is that charity for me? Because it doesn't exist, and I wouldn't have it any other way. So I'm okay with the sort of let me do right by y'all. Let me put my money here. But I don't want anybody's charity because we're not anybody's charity. We're not anyone's charity. We built the country. I'm preaching to the choir, of course, but I was talking to a very, very successful VC who's a friend of mine, is a white man, very, very successful. I mean, he's returned billions of dollars. And he was telling me, he was kind of comparing what Yale endowment has compared to all the HBCUs combined. And he was saying, he had returned so much money to their endowment because they were investors in his fund, and he had done a deal with HBCUs so that they could have a piece of that, which I thought was really cool. Done in the background. But I had to stop him for a second and say, you know that there's a reason that Yale has all that money and we don't, right? We built their house. And then there is a circle of fire created outside the house for us to say back out. Every time we build something, it's either literally or figuratively burned to the ground, if it's of note, has been in the past. So it's real easy to have multi-billion-dollar endowment if you're Yale, if you're Harvard, if you're any of those institutions that were built on the backs of us. It just doesn't. There are people who actually believe that it's merit-based and that somehow they gotta come and help us lift ourselves up because we collectively just aren't doing as well, from our own, because we can't figure it out. Oh, give me one day where we're all on equal footing. Who do you think wins out? Who do you think? Yeah, I could go on that topic. I'm going to try to stop.
I wanted to ask you, one of my favorite T-shirts I ever got was after I took one of your courses. And I got a T-shirt in the mail that said Venture Catalyst. What does that mean to you?
Venture Catalyst. So on the cover of Fast Company, thank you. It happened 5.5 years ago. I'm still going to talk about it.
History is history.
Somebody asked me, when are you going to stop talking about your cover of Fast Company? I said, I don't know. When did you stop talking about yours? I'll take their advice. So on the cover of Fast Company, they call me venture catalyst, and how I broke into the boys club of Silicon Valley. And I love that. So I've taken that on. A catalyst, I wake up every single day wondering how I can help catalyze other people. If in the hallway you came up to me and asked me a question and I helped you, I think you know what I mean by that. Is how, not just writing a check, because that was a way to kind of get into the room and have some sort of authority, but it's way more than that. If I never write a check again, what I will do in terms of helping people make their first million and beyond will, like through revenue, will far outpace any of the accolades I get for that. So it's about, again, it's going back to it's like a theme, right? It's like, what is it possible for me to do with what I have right now? I can give you time. I can scale information and scale advice. So through like online content, if you go to Arlan's Your First Million channel on YouTube, starting this year especially, like we started last year, but this year we just went a different level. So much information in this conversation that we are rolling out over the weeks. You will appear in it in a few weeks too. Like, that is what I mean by catalyze. How can every single day I make sure that I helped catalyze at least one person? And if you wouldn't mind, Lamar, can I make another point that has to do with you?
Please do.
Lamar just said this, and I want y'all to, Lamar is speaking at my event in April, so I'm so excited.
Meet me in LA.
Yes. Fireside at the Peacock Theater. YourFirstMillion.live is the website. He just said, when I was taking one of your courses, I got this t-shirt. Look around. Everybody look around for me. Just humor me. Look around and see this room and the 3 days that you've been in, and you know. So Lamar has something going on, right? You're a millionaire. You help create millionaires. You put on an event like this twice a year. He was in my course. He was learning. The most successful people I know, and again, I know I'm preaching to the choir in some cases, but I want everybody to hear me. The most successful people I know, as I kind of continue to get more and more opportunity, the more they're doing that. Have you noticed that? Like, I was just with Rachel Rogers last week. She does this like crazy. I do this like crazy. Like, we are in the masterminds. We're in the courses. I'm taking a YouTube course right now that's an on-demand YouTube course. And my wife is like laughing at me when I come into the room because I'm like supposed to be off. When she comes into the room, I'm supposed to be off, and I'm just like all geeky about it. You are in these courses. You're executing on it because you can't do anything if you just treat it like Netflix. Like, you know, you're executing on it. You're at these conferences, and even if you're not speaking I know some people who are kind of middle of the way, and I'll say, are you going to be at this event? And they're like, well, I wasn't asked to speak, so I'm not going to be there. Do you know I was here last June? Watching everything. Because why would you not do that? Why wouldn't you take that information and be in the room with people? And, you know, I may not speak to every single person, but maybe I'm going to find that one partner. Maybe I'm going to be in the right room, in the right hallway. And so I just think that there's so much we can control, and I'm living proof of it, when it comes to may not have the resources in this other way, but you have the ability to watch the free YouTube videos from beginning to end. You have the ability to take that extra course or to take that extra step. Always level up. And believe me, you're going to start to see it, and many of you are. You're 6, 7, and 8-figure businesses. You'll notice this, that you're always leveling up with more information. Like the best of you are. The best of us are.
That's good. I also want to point out that in June, when Arlan came, this is why I made the request for her to come speak to y'all now. A few things on that real quick, right? I got introduced years ago. Kim Lewis and Gwen Jameer your name kept coming up. So then, I checked out the website. I saw the course. I was like, hey, maybe I want to get into venture capital. Maybe I want to be an angel investor. I took the course. I was like, now I want to be in venture capital. Maybe I could be an angel investor. But then not only did I take the course, but Arlan offered up an intensive that's going to be in Seattle. I signed up for that too, but I think COVID or something kind of threw it off. But not only that, like it's not even surface level learning. You always got to go deeper. Everybody say deeper. It's always like another level. So the course gave me the introductory of what I needed to know, but I was like, I still need more in order to actually take effect. And when she came to, I think we were like talking online or something, and maybe you were in New York, and I was saying, hey, we got the conference, you can stop by, love to have you come. She came.
Yeah.
She hung out the whole time, which does not happen with a lot of people, right? Hung out the whole time. But the thing that really stuck to me is somebody came and was like, yeah, it was lunchtime. Yeah, Arlan's hosting a Ask a VC out in front of the Starbucks over here, outside, and anybody could come. And they sent me a picture. And at that moment, I said, oh, she one of us. She one of our people, right? Because this is a community of giving.
Yeah.
And that was the thing that probably impressed me the most about all the accolades. Like that was the thing.
Thank you.
People that take their time to give back to other people is what this community loves.
Thank you. Yeah, I mean, to me, that it makes all the sense in the world. And again, it's like I can't tell you how many directions I'm being pulled in, but there's ways to do that at scale. And that's why I love like the YouTube channel, Arlan's Your First Million channel. I love that. I love the social. I'm in it. I'm an entrepreneur too. I have 3 different companies, and I'm launching a new company this year that I haven't even talked about, right? I haven't even announced yet. So I'm in it, and I'm also seeing these other spaces. I also can I use this opportunity to invite people to my event?
Yes, please do.
If you use, I think we have this set up already. If we don't, just wait a few hours. But I believe if you go to yourfirstmillion.live and go to any of the ticket tiers, type in the word Lamar, Lamar, you will get a deep discount on the ticket. He will be speaking in one of our keynote firesides at this beautiful Peacock Theater where the Emmys were held just a few days ago. So if you saw that footage from the Emmys, that's where we're going to be. And we're going to have Sheila Johnson, first Black woman billionaire. We'll have Rich Paul, LeBron's agent, and much, much more. We'll have TLC will be performing. That's what I said, yes. We have, now I was second to this, but we're going to have Issa Rae, but she was already here. Y'all already did that. But it was seeing her then and then seeing her a few times. Issa is going to do a complete evening with Issa Rae at the Peacock Theater for us. April 9th through the 12th, yourfirstmillion.live. Gary Vaynerchuk will be there too. We'll have all kinds of people in the building. And we're going to have all kinds of like experiential things happening throughout. So the website, yourfirstmillion.live, use the code Lamar for that discount. And I just want to see y'all there. I want y'all to support and be there. But I think you're going to learn so much and take away so much. And I'm just very honored that you'll be there. Rachel Rogers will be on the stage too. She'll be interviewing Sheila Johnson because I know how much she loves her. So we'll make sure that happens. So yeah, that's what we're doing.
Awesome. Yep, give it up. Meet me in LA.
Yeah, let me see y'all there.
Hey, we're about to take questions. If you got a question, you go ahead to the microphone as y'all get in position for that. I want to ask you one more thing. In a few interviews, I've seen you talk about your thoughts on imposter syndrome.
Yeah.
And it's something that comes up a lot with clients, comes up at the conferences. I was in London speaking at UK Black Business Week in October. And the first panel I went into, I said, let me see what kind of questions they're asking over there. And 4 out of the 6 questions from the crowd were about imposter syndrome. I said, man, they just like us. Mm-hmm. Yep. What's your thoughts on imposter syndrome?
We don't have time for it. We don't have time for imposter syndrome because look at all the other stuff we have to deal with and take care of. And look at all the time we have, like the short amount of time we have to do so much. We talk about generational wealth. How are we going to create or be part of creating generational wealth if we're worried about if we're supposed to be at that job that we just got elected to? Listen, y'all remember Donald Trump? Y'all know Elon Musk? Elon Musk is the richest man in the world, richest person in the world. Donald Trump was I can't even say it, hold on. President of the United States, don't let it happen again, please. If that is true, why do I still have conversations with black women who say, am I supposed to speak up or am I supposed to be in this position? Why do I have those conversations still? Why are we saying that to ourselves? Why are we thinking it? That is the standard. We know our value. And individually, I'm not taking away from an individual, nuanced, deeply rooted series of things in your life that could have happened, or things that ways you see yourself. But it's almost like when we were outside with my mom's glasses, and a lot of people were like, oh, I can't wear this because ... or I don't, and then they put the glasses on and they'd be like, oh, there's a limiting belief. It's a self-sabotage. We don't have time for it. We just don't have time for it. Let me try to do this quickly. Let's say you weren't really sure about your outfit for the day. Let's just say you weren't really sure, you didn't feel super confident. And you saw a child in the middle of the street about to get hit by a bus. Would you stop at the mirror? Would you care what you looked like while you were running towards the child to get them out the way or yelling at the child? Would you care? We don't have time for imposter syndrome. We just don't. I wish we did, but we don't. We got other things that are more important to take care of. And at the same time, most of us who have ever suffered imposter syndrome, which is a construct, by the way, it's not real. But most of us who have ever experienced that sensation were probably, yes, supposed to be in the room. So we have to be the ones that save ourselves from that, because there's other people that we have to take care of.
So good, so good. All right, we're going to start on this side over here. When you introduce yourself, make it very brief, please, so we can get to as many questions as possible.
Hi, my name is Zena Island, and I'm the founder.
What's up, Zena? I didn't know that was you.
What's up, Lamar? How you doing? Zena Island of ZenaPR.com with an X, Xina. PR.com. Arlan, first of all, I've been following you for a number of years. I'm very entrenched into the founder community in the Washington, D.C. area and also around the country. I ran into you last year, and I remember saying, I was like, Arlan? And you said, yes. And I was like, are you speaking? And you were like, I hope to next time. So I'm glad to see you on the stage, because I do feel as if that people needed to hear your message and your story, because you do have such a powerful story. And before I get to my question, one other thing I want to add. When she was on the cover of Fast Company, Arlan was in D.C. for the Atlantic Festival. And I remember hearing all these white women talking, oh my God, who's this woman? She's on the front cover of Fast Company, because they actually put the magazine in the bags at the Atlantic Festival. So I felt as if that cover just took you so far.
Yeah.
And I'm glad that you're still talking about it.
Yeah.
So
Thank
kudos to you.
Thank you.
Good question.
My question, sorry, Lamar, I know you cut it. I am a publicist to a few of your founders that you have invested in. I know some of them have had to sell their companies because of lack of investment and other issues popping up. With the state that's going on, number one, they're trying to kill DEI, which to me is a continuation of CRT anyway. And the...
You got to, Zena, can you get close to the question? I want to make sure we get time to jump on.
And the state of DEI and with the founders losing their funding, what is happening with the VCs in terms of being able to fund those founders? Does that make sense?
Okay. Well, in VC, I forgot who it was. I forgot who it was who said it recently, but it was everybody who said it. Black people received 0.5% of all venture funding in 2023, which is actually depending on who you listen to, it's actually going backwards. It's actually worse. It's more dollars because more overall money was invested in VC, but it's less percent. And so I broke into VC because I believe that we deserve to be anywhere we want to be. Like we're like an American Express. Like we deserve to be anywhere you want to be, right? But I do not think that venture is the end all or even the beginning. It's like the third or fourth thing on my list. I'm an entrepreneur, right? I'm a bootstrapper. That's what I used to have a podcast called The Bootstrap VC because that's where it is. Venture was built by very toxic people in a very toxic system to make a very few people very wealthy. And so it's not our savior. It's not going to catch up to us anytime soon. It's not going to do the right thing anytime soon. There can continue to be funds like Backstage. There can continue to be all the dozens and dozens of funds that have been built because Backstage exists and they had the blueprint. It will make a tiny imprint. Fearless Fund is being sued now, and all kinds of stuff is happening. So that's why it's more important than ever that we do not look at venture capital as anybody's savior. It's about the companies in this room who are focused on revenue and profit.
Okay.
Sustainability, scale, all the things where like investors are an afterthought. I want us to become angel investors. By building our own companies and building that wealth, we become angel investors. And I love crowdfunding, for instance, and I love what Carol Mix did in the past. I love all of that. I've done that before. That's where I think it is. I think that venture, I will continue to stay over here because I've made my way over here, and I'll continue to yell and scream and do what I need to do. But I know that fight is very much so uphill. Now, what I also see happening, and it's going to take a few years, but it will happen, the more that we can exit at the hundreds of millions and the billions, the more bigger funds can be created by BIPOC founders and GPs, general partners. That will put a dent in things. Who was in office will put a dent in things, but there's no superhero coming to save us in VC right now.
Okay. All right. Thank you for that.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Yeah.
All right. This side.
Yes, so thank you so much for everybody in this room. I want to give a huge shout out to my aunt. She's in the mastermind, Zandra, for introducing me to these powerful and beautiful entrepreneurs. I think it's important just to introduce myself. My name is Tess. I'm a mental wellness consultant, and I am the author of the best-selling book, Success Over Suicide. And I think it's important for women of color and people of the LGBT community to be on stage and feel seen, safe, and heard. My question for you is, thank you. My question would be in regards to pitching, right? Because I'm an aspiring venture capitalist myself, and I was helping a woman with her deck the other day, and I'm like, I think you should take that out, take this out. What are things that you were looking for when people are pitching their deck to you? Is it their numbers? Is it their giving back? Is it the technology? What separates a good pitch deck for you to actually invest in?
Yeah. It's a great question. So the pitch deck is just the medium, right? Whether it's the pitch deck or it's you talking to me in person or you on an email or presenting at an event, it should be the same thing. It should be that you're able to show and quantify what you have been able to accomplish with the resources that you have so far. Right? That's what I want to understand first and foremost. I also want clarity in what it is you do. You'd be surprised how many people don't give you that in the first 10 slides. What it is you do, who you are, why you're the right person to do this, and what have you accomplished. And yes, I mean, numbers and statistics are really, really helpful because most investors see a lot of companies every single week. Like I see thousands of companies a year. So I can't necessarily meander with you down memory lane. I need to understand what we're talking about. Every investor is going to have different metrics that are important to them as far as like what's impressive to them. Mine is more like, what have you done with what you have, given the fact that to me, that potential is really important. Like, potential is super important to me. An idea is not when you should try to talk to me. I've been kind of vague with that in the past. I'm gonna be more clear. At an idea stage, it's not the right time to talk to me. You can talk to me about other stuff, but not your company. Because ideas are a dime a dozen. So have some traction, do something. There's something that each of us can do before they're in front of investors, before they've raised a penny. Also, really important to understand why you're raising the amount of money you're raising. Very few founders can tell me with accuracy and with clarity why this certain amount, other than this is what I'm up against. So if you're going in and the incumbent is like, a multi-billion-dollar company, you're like, well, they just did a round for 200 million. That's their chapter 50. You're talking about your chapter 2. So that doesn't have anything to do with this conversation. So it's that too. I also say, and this is another way just in pitch in general, if I believe, this is all subjective, if I believe it would take me more than 10 years to build what you have or what you are building, I would be more interested than not. Because if I feel like I could do it on my own, or someone around me could just kind of create this thing in a few years, to me, that helps me really quickly say, oh, actually, I could do that, or someone else could do that. So that might mean that it might be, there's no moat for you. There's nothing that sets you apart or protects you from someone else doing the same thing or a bigger company doing something similar to it. So you can ask yourself right now, not everybody needs to go out looking for investment, but you could just think to yourself, is what I'm doing, would it take someone else a decade or more to do this, to replicate this? If you feel that way, go to backstagecapital.com and apply, because we're one of the few funds in the whole country that lets you just apply online, no matter if you know us or not. And we look at all of them. We have 35 apprentices who look at our applications and surface the ones that they like as a group to the general partners. And so that is a very special kind of way of doing this, and that's year-round for the most part.
Thank you.
All right, back to this side.
It's Bruce Hill of New Skills New You. I make sales simple.
Oh, I remember you. I met you back there last time. Oh, I got your book.
I definitely have a shout out for you because I tried to give her the book. It's like, oh, it's Arlan. I got to give her my book. Asking better questions. I got to give her my book. She buys the book, takes a picture, a selfie, and posts it to her social media. Thank you, thank you, thank you. With capitalists looking for companies' investment and the companies looking for dollars, how do we become easier to find?
Say that again, easier to?
Find. How do we get discovered?
How do you get discovered?
Whether it's the company or the VC, there's so much noise, there's so many opportunities. How do we become easy to find for the people that are looking for us?
Well, I say be yourself so the people looking for you can find you. Yeah, it's printed on things. It's printed on things.
Now you're trying to process that. Y'all trying to take it all in.
Many of you are just killing it on social and on YouTube, but not all, right? For this specific question, I would ask myself, how many times am I posting on social for my company? And how many kind of angles am I doing, and how creative am I being? And do I have a schedule, or do I just post whatever I think that day I should post? Do you have a consistent and a clear path on YouTube? Do you have a plan, a YouTube plan, on this free site over here that also pays you sometimes when you hit in certain metrics? Do you have a plan there? Because 10 years ago, 20 years ago, we wouldn't have been able to be our own media company. We had that in the palm of our, like in our pocket. Most of us have this phone that has access to all these different places where people can discover you. And there's some platforms are more discoverable than others, but each of them has their role in it. And so depending on what you do, one of the things, Gary Vaynerchuk is going to be at my event, and one of the things he talks about, he's been talking about for years, and people are just kind of sleeping on it, is that LinkedIn. Oh, okay, yeah. is that LinkedIn for certain companies, especially if you have like a localized company. But if you have any kind of niche company, like LinkedIn is so great. And I'm not talking about just like paid ads. I'm talking about that content marketing where you crank up the amount of content that you put online every single week. Crank it up, find the things that are resonating, and then double down on those things with either paid ads or with more like that, more or both, right? Or more like that. And so I have a video on Arlan's Your First Million on YouTube, that channel. It's from January 1st. It's where I gave an entrepreneur a free VIP day where we talked about our company, and then I took her to the Mavs game courtside because it's my favorite team, Mavericks. And I tell her, I break down for her, and she's a real estate founder. And she said, well, how do I kind of grow? And I said, well, what happens when you post on Instagram? She said, I get leads. And I said, and when's the last time you posted on Instagram? And she tells me, it's like post every once in a while. And I said, if I knew that every time I posted on Instagram, I got leads, and some of those leads turned into money, what would happen if I added more posts on Instagram? And she said, more money. And I said, yeah, that's it, right? So you post more, you take the data from what you post and the way that people are reacting to it, and you get better and better and better at it. And you use that data, and you don't stop after 2 weeks or 2 months. He's getting the information right now for his You don't stop after 2 weeks or 2 months because only 14 people are looking at your YouTube video. You say 14 people are looking at my YouTube video. Where did they stop watching? Where did they go back? Where did it fall off? What can I do to make the next one better? And you do that for a solid year. You do this for a solid year, no matter what the results are, and it will change your company.
Hey, I bought your book, by the way.
Thank you.
This side.
Hello, everyone. My name is Shannon McFarlane. I'm 20 years old, and I'm from the Atlanta area. I own a candle company named Blossom and Glow, where we make candles for purposeful women of every stage of life. My company is in the ascension phase, and you mentioned funding not being a reason not to start a business. I'm young, and I'm also in college, and I do not have a lot of disposable income. My question is, do you have any suggestions for funding so that I can get my company off of the ground?
Yeah, a lot of what I just said in this answer applies to you. Also, there are places you can do pitch competitions, you can do grants, you can do things of that nature. But you're college age. Do you like to post on social?
Well, I'm normally not on social media, but it's something that I am getting into.
Would you consider yourself introverted?
A little.
Yeah. I just had a conversation with a man in New York and his wife, and he's very introverted, but he was so compelling to me when he walked up to me. I was like, are you on like Law and Order or something? That you just seem so familiar to me. And he said that he does like daily affirmations. He likes to send a newsletter out to people. And I told him, look, you can make YouTube videos or any kind of content videos without even putting your face on them. You can do voiceovers, you can do lists, you can do things. So if you're doing candles, right? There's a woman I know from Boise or somewhere, and she does like beeswax candles, and she makes tens of millions of dollars off of these candles, off of just educating people about why beeswax is a better product. Oh, I'm sorry, it's not candles. She does lotions. I'm sorry about that. Lotions. Why beeswax is a better lotion for XYZ, right? So your candles, and by the way, you're 20, so it may not be that this is the company that takes you to the moon, but you can learn so much from this company, get some cash flow to then fund the next thing, maybe. We'll see, right? So you could do educational videos. You could do like things where you're showing someone else who is experiencing the candles and how it makes their life better. You can do testimonials. You can do cute things. You can do things that I'm not even describing because I'm not hip, right? You can apply it to something else. Like, I'm going to the Beyonce concert. I had to do my ritual before I head out the door with my candles and this. And the voiceover actually lends itself to candles because it's such a visual thing that people care about. What sets you apart? So I would say, let me make a 3-month goal to reach $10,000 in revenue. That's just an idea, right? Let me make that my goal. and I'm going to work the job, I'm going to do the gig working, I'm going to do the other thing I need to do while I'm in college to pay the rent, but I'm going to have this goal because it's going to teach me so much more than college ever could, right? And then once you do that for 3 months, you're going to be an expert, more so than 99% of the people in the world, because you simply did it and you went through the process.
Thank you.
All right. Awesome. Shout out to real quick to the young people too. We had there's a bunch of them in the room. But we had last night a group of 11 young people, and a bunch of my collaborative members took time after the night session, so 9 o'clock at night, to sit across the hall in a room with 11 college, high school students and pour into them for like an hour. I had to like kind of shut it down and stop it. So I want y'all, like when you got young people like that, they need to be in this room hearing from people like Arlan and the people we had on the stage this week to know that it's real. This side.
Hi, everyone. I'm Maisha Thompson, licensed massage therapist, meditation guide, and founder of Amani Massage and Wellness, based in Phoenix, Arizona. We help women harness the power of their mind-body connection to overcome chronic pain, anxiety, and depression, create peace within themselves, and lives that they love. My question to you is, I am in the wellness space. It's very segmented, sometimes seen as a good to have, but not a must have. It's also not techie and, flashy and things like that. So my question to you is, as someone I've did my career in marketing in the .com space, so I kind of understand how all of that works. But what I don't understand is, how do people in the wellness space, in this kind of touchy-feely space, become attractive to investors, and what problems can we solve that investors will take notice and want to work with us?
Yeah, I'm going to spend just a few seconds answering that, and then I'll veer from that, because you could create, I always say that if you're trying to answer that question, if you have a service business, is there a product that you can create? And if you have a product business, is there a service you can create when you're stuck and you need cash, or you need to kind of pivot, right? So for you, yours could be, there might be something that's very specific to all the learnings that you have, and that your customers kind of react to, that you can productize, not something that's physical, but maybe there's an app or something of that nature. Having said that, I know that I've invested in 200 companies. I know that I'm technically a venture capitalist. I am begging you all to stop thinking about raising money from other people. I'm begging you. Because as we talked about earlier, VC is for the birds. It is a dinosaur that is only getting more toxic. Angel investing is incredible, and I think that there is a way that you could have a membership-based, your first 20 members or 100 members who, if they put in $10,000, they become these special lifetime members of XYZ, or 3-year members of that. You could raise in that way. But ultimately, you're doing something, I think it's more sustainable to work on something that your customers are your investor, because they're investing their money as your consumer. And I was telling someone earlier in the hall, I think that over the next 3 years, they were actually about trends in VC. I think that what you'll see is a mass exodus from the VC being the kind of cool way of doing things. It'll be kind of like, oh, you took VC money? Oh, okay. Kind of feeling sorry for you. And it's more like, well, I'm over here like with a cash flow positive business, and I can, take my family on vacations anytime I want, and I don't have to like answer Chad's phone call, because there is no Chad in my life, right? I just think that everybody who's asked a question, when they tell me their company, it's already so full and vibrant and full of resources that you could expand on, rather than spending 80% of your time trying to get that $100,000 check that will only be in the bank account for a few months and then it's gone again.
Thank you.
All right. And final question, Obi.
Good afternoon, everyone. First of all, Lamar, thank you for a great event. And Arlan, I love listening to you. My name is Obi Ikeme. I am the founding attorney of Ikeme Law, a subscription legal-based law firm. Companies and entrepreneurs pay me to make sure they have a firm legal foundation, protect their intellectual property, leverage that intellectual property to create additional income streams, as well as build a dynamic workforce by hiring exceptional foreign talent. One thing that you said that just kind of stuck out to me is when you were talking about Mark Cuban's legal team talking to your legal team, and I absolutely love that. And I wanted to ask when legal became important to you. The reason I asked is because I find that a lot of companies, brands, whether startup, big, middle, whatever, are more reactive to legal than proactive. So by the time they hire me or other attorneys, we're more expensive, or it's too late, or sometimes there's nothing that we can do, and then they're having to start from scratch. So I'd love your insight on when you knew that legal for what you're building and the legacy you're trying to leave is no longer an option.
So for me, it's going to be different than others because I was raising a fund. So I had legal before I had a house to sleep in.
Okay, thank you.
I really did. I got somebody who was willing. It was a very great lawyer who was willing to take me on because one of the things I did during that time of Silicon Valley is I got in touch with Sam Altman, who is now the owner of ChatGPT, which we just invested in, by the way, because that's a little mic drop. I talked to him 9 years ago, and I said, I want you to invest, blah, blah, blah. And he said, I can't invest right now, but what I can do is a couple things. I can make some introductions. So I said, I want legal help. So he got in touch with the person. There are so because of the work I do with funds and other people's money, there was no playing with that. There was no question. There was no let me go ahead and figure out how to do that. Day one, day zero. With companies, there are a lot of lawyers, and there's probably lawyers in this room who will attest to this, who will either give you a package deal as a startup for those first few hours to look at things for you and help you as you grow, or will do pro bono for a certain amount of time if they think things are going in the right direction. It's just that most companies and most founders won't even go and do that search. It's like this thing of like, oh, well, I don't want to get in touch with 12. I got to get in touch with 12 people to find that person who's going to say yes. Get in touch with 12 people then. What are we doing here? We're going to hand it to you? Get in touch with 12 people and find the one who says, yes, I do have a special startup thing, or talk to other founders who've worked with it, or a lawyer, somebody knows a lawyer, make an introduction. That's what I would do. So I would say it's so important. The other thing that's even more important, even slightly earlier, but probably the same time, is that accountant. Is it accountant for your taxes? For your taxes. I'm going to do a shout out. This is a shameless plug. Lamar can yell at me later if you want to. But if you go to Revel, revelcpa.com/Arlan, Revel with a V, CPA.com/Arlan. You can talk to my accountants, and we have a partnership because I wanted to start an accounting firm, but I decided to partner with him. By the way, partnerships are where it's at. So we can do that because if you have any amount to spend, it's on the accountant who will help you with your taxes and maybe save you money, keep you out of trouble. And legal is so important. Those two things are so important early on.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you.
All right. Arlan, before we wrap, I wanted you to tell everybody why they must get a copy of Your First Million, why you don't have to be born into a legacy of wealth to leave one behind.
My goal in the next decade is to help create and catalyze 1,000 new millionaires. And the reason I say 1,000 and not 1 million or whatever is because I am going to be tracking it as well. And so every single year at my event, Your First Million Live, I want to have those who are newly millionaires walk across the stage. The book is the call to action. It's the why. Why do we need to be millionaires? Why do we need to come together? You know this better than most. Why, and it's the how. It is an entrepreneur's guide. It is a blueprint. It is the how. It'll get things started for you, and then if you take that, go into my Arlan's Your First Million YouTube channel, really dig into that, dig into the free, hundreds of podcast episodes that I have on Your First Million, the podcast. Do you sense a theme? I'm trying to help people create their first million so they can make their next and their next after that. So it's important. We need to have collective power, control, and freedom to create a higher quality of life for ourselves and our families and the people who are important to us today and in the future. We can't do that if we are sort of bottom of the barrel when it comes to how much money we have. We have to change. Every time we see those statistics that, there's this gap, we can change that, right? We can affect that, right? And that's what I want to do with this. I hope that it helps create millions of millionaires, but we're going to start with 1,000.
All right, TSP, stand to your feet.
Thank you.
Thank you, Arlan Hamilton.
Let's give